Good afternoon. We're here with Senior Moment with Herb Keener, and I am Herb Keener. Today we got an exciting guest with us, and we're going to talk about some things that I think is going to pull the covers of a lot of people using excuses of why they can't get up and around. Now, our guest is in her 70s, and so she is absolutely eligible to be on the Senior Moment, and we're going to talk here in a moment. Now, I want you looking after my book here. Now, this is going to be the only time I talk about my book, because you really, when you get through with this, you need to be running out and picking her book up. But get on herbkeener.com, and you can read about some works I've done, and there's places for comments and send it back. And any emails, I want to hear from you out there. Herb@herbkeener.com, I will receive. Now, we're going to be talking to Kathi Morris. Now, she was with Austin, Central Valley Talks guy, and she had an interview with him, and he had newsreels and all that. So if you're not watching this live, go to Central Valley Talk and get the interview with Kathi Morris by Austin. Look at that. It will give you all the background of what happened to her life at 17 years old. But at this time, I'm going to hand it to her and let her speak to you about what she went through, and you can compare that to what kind of excuse you're using not to rise up. Kathi?
Well, thank you for having me, Herb.
You bet.
So my book is called We Were the Morris Orphans, and this is a copy of it.
Amen.
And the story is this, that I'm the oldest of 10 children. When I was 17, our parents were killed by a drunk driver. And since then, there's been a lot more tragedy and loss in my life and the life of our family. So as the years progressed and we had one tragedy after another, people constantly telling me, you need to write a book. And I would dismiss them because we all have a story. And they'd say, yeah, but not like yours. So at Mass in 2009, the sermon was on our God-given gifts and how we will be held accountable for them when we die. And that shook me to my core. So that's when I put two and two together and retired and started writing the book. But I just got it published this year. So it took from 2009 to 2021 because I didn't understand its purpose. And I'd stop and not write because I was struggling with what is its purpose. But I have to tell you, it went out for pre-order on May 5th, and I was trying to market it as best I could, so that when it launched last week, November 30th, it shot up to the #1 in adoption category. I'm getting fabulous reviews on Amazon. I'm getting messages and messages through Messenger on how it's touched their lives. So there was a point when I wasn't working on it at all, questioning God on what's the purpose. This is not a happy story. I'm just telling you my story. This happened, this happened, this happened. What's the point? And the message I heard was, it's none of your business. You just need to be obedient.
Amen.
Right? Just write the book. Tell your story.
Yes.
And so I am now finding out, even with you calling me, on its purpose. And so when you reached out and told me about your program and what you're trying to accomplish, I've gone through, and I write about all this in the book. I lost my parents at 17. We were national news. It took 2 months to decide what to do with us. We've never had time to grieve, ever. And so we went with our aunt for 5 months, and after that, we went into foster homes. I tried to kill myself on my 18th birthday. And at 17, I lost my mom and dad. At 18, I lost my 9 brothers and sisters. They sent me to live in a boarding house with the nuns at San Joaquin Memorial. So to go from a family of 12 for 17 years with home and everything that means to living in a boarding house with nuns all alone on the first floor.
Now, when you were living with the nuns, they were loving and compassionate and caring? Or what? How did they receive you?
None of that. There was none of that. You would think of any area where it might be compassionate or nurturing. They ended up kicking me out, even though I deserved it, I guess, because I had been at a party and our curfew was midnight. And I didn't want to leave the party, so I jumped out the window and I got caught. And so the message was, what she said was, we can't have girls like you living here.
And was that the first time you got caught doing anything?
Yes.
And there was no leeway, no room, no nothing, just out.
You got to go.
Did the nuns walk around smiling, praising God and stuff?
No, never. They were in the upstairs bedrooms, and even though I was in the one sole bedroom on the first floor, by the front door, by the living room, I don't even remember them using the front door. They used the back door and would take the stairs to go upstairs. So I was alone.
You mean they never come to you and said, how do you feel?
No.
Are you getting over this?
No.
Are you hurting? They didn't even ask you if you were hurting?
No, never. And I write in the book how the one time that I was consoled was by, the head sister is Mother Superior, Mother Therese. Her sister was the cook. And there was one night that I was in my bedroom with the door shut, just sobbing. And she's the one who came in, the one who was not a nun, and tried to console me. But no. So I ended up going back to my aunt's alone. She kicked me out. And I write about all this in the book, and it wasn't until I wrote the book where I understood why I am the way I am, because I felt so disposable. I was getting kicked out time and time again. Then I was an unwed mother. These are the cliff notes for the rest of the book. Then I was an unwed mother. My brother Mike committed suicide because he never did overcome the loss. Then my brother Jeff got malignant melanoma and he died. And that's kind of where I end the book in terms of my losses up until the age of, 22. I end my story. The second part of the book is telling you about Michael and Jeffrey, that sort of thing. But I put a chapter in the book saying, I ended here, but the rest of my life as a wife and a mother, divorcee, ovarian cancer, I could write 5 or 6 more books about.
I've seen that.
Right? About, you have no excuse to be laying on the couch.
There you go.
Right? I overcome all of this.
What was the very first, after getting it all together and saying, I've lost my parents, I lost my brother, I've done all this, what was the very first when you confide to yourself, what was the very first tragic thing you had to climb aboard on?
Panic attacks.
Oh, yeah.
Mom and dad are killed, right? I'm 17. At 18, I get kicked out. We went with our aunt originally, all 10 of us. 5 months later, all 10 of us went to a foster home with strangers. On my birthday, and that was only 3 months that we'd been living there, they kicked me out because I tried to kill myself. So now I go to the nuns, and I'm there till I graduate in 1969 from high school, and they kicked me out. So I go back to my aunt, who had awarded us, we had been awarded to in the first place, and then she kicked me out. So now I'm back in Fresno, and now I start having panic attacks, and I don't know what's going on. So I'm believing I must be losing my mind. I'm going insane because I'd never even heard of anxiety, panic attacks, any of that. And again, nobody's ever consoled us. We've never had counseling. I don't know how to grieve. And that's when I started reaching out to God because there was nobody to help me. And I didn't know what a panic attack was.
Yeah. Was there an opportunity when you thought, wow, I'm done?
Yeah, when I tried to kill myself at that foster home.
Yeah. What about when you're having the panic attacks? Was there a time that you just said, I can't deal with this anymore, I'm done? Or did you strive to get help to get over it?
I said I'm done because I didn't know what was going on with me. I didn't know how to get help. I didn't have anyone. I mean, I'm for the most part was homeless, penniless, nothing, no support, nobody to support me.
What was your positive move to get you up and started in the right direction?
The positive move was I enrolled in a computer programming institute, and then I applied for IRS, and I believe that although being an unwed mother was also scandalous and difficult, I believe my daughter saved my life because I needed to stay sane for her.
Now that's exciting. Now you better hang on and get ready to be back here on the second segment because she has a lot more to tell you, and we'll get to a point where it's cover pulling time. God bless. We're back. We're here with Kathi Morris, and if you've seen the first segment, you'll know that her life was a up and down roller coaster ride, and I'll tell you right now, I read her book from front to back. Never in my life have I ever been so tied up inside a book that I felt the anxieties, I felt the stretching of my soul. I felt all the feelings that she told Austin in the interview, that she said, I wanted you to feel my pain. And well, I thought, well, that's not possible just with words. Well, I was wrong. And if you grab that book, you read it, I promise you, you will be glad you did, because it'll change your perspective on life. It changed. I'm 81 years old. I mean, there's not too much of change I'd be liking. And it changed my perspective, how I looked at people. I said, well, wow, I thought I went through something. Well, Kathy's got more to tell you, and we're going to keep going here. And I'm going to turn it back to her and let her continue telling you what she's doing.
So I'd mentioned that I believe that my daughter saved my life because I was living with my mother's best friend at the time. She took me in for about a year, and we'd have long discussions on Jesus and God, religion. You know, I was Catholic, but I was searching and all this stuff. And she told me, she goes, you know, Kathi, she didn't ask to be brought into this world, and we need to take care of her. So that's when I was searching. It's when I went back to church, started working at IRS, and got married. So it was those, I think that was the beginning of me pulling it together, because number one, I was back at church and I started reading the Bible and joining prayer groups and those types of things and trying to understand what spirituality was all about, you know, the Bible and what's he saying to me and all that sort of thing. So I've got the, you know, you need to be healthy emotionally, physically, and spiritually. So I was doing my best to try and work on in all those areas. But it's like you're saying with the roller coaster, right? So now I'm at IRS, I'm married, we had a son, so we're a family, and boom, Michael kills himself. Here we go again.
That's your brother.
My brother Mike,
Yeah.
he was 31, 1990. We had just bought property. We were building a home. It's an exciting time. And then get the phone call that Mike shot himself. And suicide. Okay, you know, I was with mom and dad for 17 years. I was with Mike for 31, and now it's suicide. And so, and I write all about that, and me going to the Clovis Police Department to pick up the gun, covered in his blood, and I was alone again.
When you went to the police department, they were caring and taking care of you and making you blessed? What happened in there?
Yeah, not even close. And what had happened was my brother Mike was single, no children, nothing. It fell to us to bury him. So as a group, we decided to get the gun, because it was a .357 Magnum, and sell it to try and help with the expenses, because we were still young. None of us had any money. So I called the police department and I explained what had happened and what I wanted. And after they cleared it, I went down there to pick it up and treated like, you know, I was some kind of criminal, is how I felt, that there was no compassion. And then when she brought the gun out, she had it in an opaque bag, and she put it on the counter in front of me and pulled it out, and it was covered in my brother's blood. And I don't have guns. I don't know anything,
Right.
any of that. And so I pulled out a paper bag to put the gun in so I could take it to the car. And that's when she chastised me, saying, "What are you doing? You can't put it in a bag. That would be a concealed weapon." And I was parked in front of Clark Junior High School. I'm like, so I'm supposed to carry this gun in broad daylight across the street?
Wow.
And she said, yeah, that's exactly what I'm telling you. So that was another, it was awful.
Callous.
So
Very callous.
cold-blooded. Yeah. That time, and sprinting across the street to my car, because people were looking at me like, right? I mean, in today's world, I probably would have gotten shot because,
Yes.
right? Anyway, threw it in the trunk and just sat in the car for I don't know how long. And that cry, it was like I didn't even know where that sound was coming from. To be alone with, and that's how I felt, my brother's
Right.
in the trunk. So that happened. And then 4 years later, Jeff got malignant melanoma. and we didn't know. He just fell down with a grand mal seizure. And my panic attacks, turns out, was agoraphobia, which actually gave me comfort to know there was a name, right? I thought I was losing my mind, but I have agoraphobia because of all the trauma. Jeff was living in Las Vegas, and with agoraphobia, some people never come out of the closet. They never come out of their bedroom.
Right.
It's very confining and debilitating. But at any rate, so now we're dealing with my brother Jeff dying of cancer, and I can't get there to see him because I have agoraphobia. So that was only 4 years after Michael. You know, and then after that, I married for 22 years, got divorced, and a few years after that, I got ovarian cancer. And I'm a single woman living at home. Now, ovarian cancer, going through chemo, I lost all this hair, going through it alone again. You know, both my kids are gone, and I'm single. So I learned, to sum it up to this point, I learned a long time ago that the party goes on with or without you.
Amen.
And I don't like that. It's like I can stay down here, stuck, moping,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
I did sex, drugs, and rock and roll for a minute. I didn't like the way it felt.
Right.
I went wayward for a minute because I didn't care if I lived or died. After Mom and Dad were killed, I went from Miss Polly purebred to I don't care,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I'm going to run the streets, do drugs, sex. I don't care because I don't care whether I live or die. And that's what I mean. Once I had my daughter, I had a purpose. I had to take care of this person. I don't know what would have happened. I mean, because it's too, to try and speculate or, right,
yes.
go back. I just know this is what happened with me. And then when I started working and the rest of it,
Now, when your brother died of cancer, how old was your daughter then?
oh my gosh, I'm going to say she was a teenager.
Oh.
Yeah, by then, because that was 1995, and she was born in, let's just say 70. So that's what,
Oh,
25, huh?
yeah.
She was 25 by then.
Wow. She was a good support for you?
Not really.
I like that. Tell it like it is.
I know, I do.
Okay, but see, that's the thing is, that's why this story needs to be told, not only with the book, but you visibly. But you got past that, and how did your relationship with your daughter go after that?
Me and my daughter have had issues her whole life, and that's another book.
Yeah.
But me getting married, having a son, it's all of it. And that's where at some point you've got, the bottom line is all of us have a choice.
There you go.
You can choose to go this way or you can choose to go that way. And I wallowed in this way for a little bit, and I didn't like it. And I could see the future. There wasn't going to be a happy ending.
Yeah. There was no future.
No. And I didn't want that for me. It's like I'm still alive. I'm still alive.
There you go.
And I want to be part of the party. I want to be happy. I want to be healthy, right?
Yes.
So you do what you need to do or have to do to get there.
Yeah.
And
How old was your son at this time?
when,
Right after your brother died of cancer.
oh, okay, so again, that was 95. And Ryan was born in 77. Let's just call it 75. So 18?
Wow. So they were actually adults.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
I see.
it's affected them
Yeah.
as well. Both of my brothers.
Right. Okay.
You know, and that's the thing, too, with drunk drivers. They didn't just rob the 10 of us. My kids didn't have grandparents,
There you
right?
go. Yes.
Mike killed himself because he never got over losing mom and dad. So they lost an uncle, then they lost
Amen.
another uncle,
Yes.
right? There's a ripple effect forever. So,
So now you've got a 18, 19-year-old and a 20-something-year-old you're dealing with after your brother's death in cancer.
right. But I'm married, I'm working, you know, I'm teaching Sunday school. You know, for all intents and purposes, it's a normal life.
If anybody was looking in from the outside, they'd say, well, that's a normal person.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
But inside,
I'm dealing with issues, and I'm dealing with, not me, I'm a teetotaler, but alcohol. It's why I divorced after 22 years.
well, you know what? This is exciting, folks. We got 2 more segments to go. God bless. We're back. Well, it's been an exciting segment so far, the 2 segments. We're on the 3rd segment, and I'm going to get right back to Kathi because she has more to say. But the main thing is now, you start looking to how you can get that book. There's a number of ways you can get it. You can get online. Now, I've read the book from cover to end, and I'll give you my absolute promise. You start reading it, you're not going to go too far away until you get it done. Because I tried to pull out of it a couple of times, but I had to go back and see what was going on. I'm telling you, you need to get that book. I mean, it's over 200 pages long, and I guarantee you it won't seem like it. So we're going to get back to Kathi now. She's going to tell us some things she went through. Now, folks, I want you to remember the reason for this particular program is we like to pull the covers off of you folks that's using a slim excuse to sit there and not be able to get up. You take a lady like this that has went through all this, and now she's healthy and she is wise, and we need to hear what she has to say. It'll pull every one of your excuses. So you better get your earplugs if you're not interested. Go ahead on.
Yeah, it's like we were saying earlier, it's every day is a choice. You can, right, get up in the morning and choose to grumble and complain and just make yourself even more miserable,
Absolutely.
right? Or you can get up and choose to have it be a good day, and what can I do to make it better? So with every loss, with everything we're going through, and I will share this with you right now, you don't know, it's still happening. I mean, this past year, I could write another book on, because I acknowledge C.J. Collins in my book. She took me under her wing in the writing class, and she taught me how to write.
Wow.
And then she got breast cancer, and she died in April of this year. And it was her and me. We were Thelma and Louise. We were going to take this to the end. She was my biggest cheerleader and celebrating. And you talk about a kick to the gut again, where we worked for years to get to this point.
So you're telling me, now that you had this roller coaster ride,
Yep.
now that you had this positive thing in your life,
Yes.
then your mentor up and dies.
Yes. And it gets worse. My book went up for pre-orders on CJ died in April. My book went up for pre-order on May 5th. So here we are down in the abyss with CJ, and now we're back on a high. Woohoo! I finally get to see what the cover looked like. It's on Amazon for pre-order. It's time to celebrate, and I have to just hang on to the fact that at least CJ got to see the cover.
Praise
and
God.
CJ's in heaven, and maybe she can make things happen from up there, because she was so invested in this book, and I had to move past it. It's like, okay, she's gone. I spoke at her funeral. A couple months go by, and I find out my daughter has stage 3 stomach cancer.
Oh, my God.
August of this year, I found that out. So where I'm trying to go up, now we go down again. Then Thanksgiving Day, my youngest sister, Roberta, was found dead in her home.
Who's this?
Our youngest sister, Roberta.
Oh, my, yeah.
And so she was living alone in Indiana. And that just happened November 25th.
We're talking about days ago.
Yes, we are. And my book launched 5 days later on November 30th.
Man.
So, again, thank God I've built up a foundation all these years to help me this year, where I've worked 12 years to launch that book. And I've had, again, another 3 punches. CJ, then my daughter, and now my sister. So
She was one of the 10.
yes,
Okay.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah. But you know what I know? And what I'm so thankful to God for is there was a time with this 1, 2, 3 punch, I would have been in that depression, right? That dark, that cloud.
It would have been different.
It would have been different. And I'm surprising myself at my own strength in that 100%. I've got a foundation based on God. And he met me at every abyss, and he's still carrying me now. And even with the book, everyone who said it's going to be a bestseller or a movie, Netflix, Amazon Prime, I keep telling them, I go, this wasn't my idea. I was told in mass, you have God-given gifts. What's your gift? What the thought that came to me was, everybody keeps telling me to write a book because they like the way I write letters and cards.
Right.
I didn't know how to write a book. I never wanted to write a book. I believe God wanted me to tell the story. And I believe now whatever's supposed to happen is going to happen.
Yes. And we're going to be part of it.
Yeah.
This is an amazing story. You're an amazing person. You've come through so much that I mean, what could take you out other than death itself? So what I want the viewers to see is the strength they see in you with all the hurt, the pain, the very recent pain. So this is what we're doing, is pulling covers off of people that maybe lost a loved one, maybe lost a husband, and maybe they divorced or something like that. Man, get over it. It's time to put that in back where it's at. You can't live with your parents dying every day. Pretty soon you got to put that in the archives and move on for today. Because as a believer, you already know you're going to see them again. So that's not the issue. Now your strength is coming out, and this is what it's going to take to let people know. I haven't went through 1/10 of what you went through, and I thought I was terrible. So take it from there. What's next?
And I want people to understand that I was in dark places at times.
Yes.
I was.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was really depressed, didn't even know I was depressed. And those panic attacks are no joke.
Oh, man.
That took a lot of therapy and courage. There was a time I couldn't drive 5 miles. I missed my kids' birthdays with my husband's parents because I couldn't make it to Blackstone.
Wow.
I couldn't go 10 miles to Sanger. And so, once again, where I struggled a whole summer just to get 10 miles to Sanger. And I pulled over on the side of the road and I'm just screaming, you know. And at some point, it was the self-talk. It's like, I don't care, Kathy. I don't care if you pass out, get sick, whatever you think is going to happen, you're going to go. Go ahead and have your panic attack, and then you can turn around and come back. But you're going to go. Just do it.
See, yeah.
Yeah, just do it.
Amen.
So that takes work. And this is what I think in the end, it's how much time are you willing to invest in yourself? Just when you start learning to put yourself first, learning
No matter what your age.
exactly, and learn how to say no, learn how to set boundaries. You know, it's like it's a process, but like anything, like me writing a book, you have to do the work. So trust me, I've got sisters and friends where they're couch potatoes. And it's annoying for me because, right? I tell my son, I'm like, I wished I'd been a guy because they can go hunting, right? They can go fishing. They have all these things.
That they can do.
Not as a woman, you know, and I don't want to be in a knitting circle, but it's hard for me. And I'm just so happy I've got kids and grandkids that I can do things with and help keep me young and dialed in to whatever degree. But it is a tough space in getting older. That part with me seeing what you're trying to do, I don't know if I'm lucky, I don't know what it is, but I've got way too much energy. I'm not going to sit on the couch watching TV shows all day.
Well, what I see is not the lucky part. I think you're blessed. You're blessed to be able to see over the edge. Because if you can't see over the edge, you don't know where you're going. And then you're able to rise up and go forward, just like forcing yourself to go drive and go be places. So that's a struggle in itself. Mm-hmm. So just go on with that. We need to hear about how you're coming out, because I know in the next segment, you're going to talk about where you're at now, what you're doing, what your goals are. Right now, let's finish up with what you're talking about.
All righty. I think in the end, it's where when I retired in 2009 and started writing the book, in the next segment, we can talk about this last, right? How many years is that? 12?
12 years, yeah.
Yeah, the last 12 years, once I retired from IRS, which saved my life. I have a nice pension.
Yeah.
Right? I did well for myself and that career for 35 years.
That by itself is probably a work of art. Lasted with IRS for 35 years? Come on.
Yeah, that's like... no, I like to say that I'm artsy fartsy. I like being creative. So I love Carmel with right? Yeah. The photography, the paintings, right. Everything there. So yeah, to be in a federal government where you've got it's regimented and you don't get to talk or see people. You're in this, right? Building with laws, rules, and regulations. That was
absolutely.
Yeah, that was difficult.
But you surpassed that. You're okay now.
Once again, we'll say I was blessed because I had no
That's
idea
right.
about Social Security versus a pension. I didn't know. I just landed at IRS.
You circled the airport and landed in IRS. Okay.
Yeah, I aced the civil service test, thank God.
Okay, now we stick around for the next segment. God bless. We're back. Well, it's been an exciting 3 segments. We're on the last segment, and Kathy's going to give you a kind of a peek inside of her life and let you know where she's at now, uh, and what her goals are, and whatever comes against her. It can't be any worse than happened already, so her plan is to abolish those. So right now, I'm going to turn it back to her, but remember, get after that book. I'm telling you, you need to get on that book because you can say I had one at the beginning before it hit #1. So get after that book. It's a blessing. It will warm your heart because #1, everything she went through would kill most people. But she's standing, she's healthy, and she retired from IRS. If that's not enough to tell you she's doing fine, I don't know what is. Go for it, Kathy.
Okay, so let's pick up with IRS and retiring from IRS because that was the same year that I was at church and the sermon was on our God-given gifts. And so I retired, but I really quit because I had the most horrible boss ever. I should have stayed 5 more years, but I made a decision that God wants me to tell this story.
Yes.
God wants me to tell this story. So you know what? I'm going to move that up to the top of the list, and I'm going to retire, quit IRS, and I started on the book. And I started writing, and I got to the chapter where I said that we're on the way to the funeral home, and my grandmother handed me the newspaper. I read the headlines, and I lost it. I cried. I mean, it was another one of those guttural words. Where's that sound coming from? Because there was something about reading it in print that made it more real for me. And so I'm telling you about that in the book, and I'm like, what did the headlines say? Where's that newspaper? And so I stopped writing and started researching. And I went down to the Superior Courthouse to get court documents. I went to Madera Tribune to get the articles. I wrote to CBS News because we were on CBS Evening News with Walter Cronkite a couple of times. Just started doing all my research. And then as I'm writing, I'm like, I don't even know what I'm doing. I don't know how to write a book. I don't know how to get one published. I don't know what I'm doing. And there were times where I would stop writing because I didn't know how to get to the end and I didn't know its purpose. Right after that is when I got ovarian cancer, but I made it. And then I'm living at home and I'm alone and I'm bored. So I decided to put my house up for sale, by owner, and see what happens. And my house sold in 4 days, and it was in a bidding war. So I sold my house. I moved to Monterey, and as I'm going through the process, my friends and family are like, you're doing what? And I sold most of my furniture with the house. I said, I'm going to move to Monterey, and I'm going to work for Pebble Beach. Oh, so you got a job there? I said, no, but I'm moving to Monterey, and I'm going to work for Pebble Beach. And guess what? I moved to Monterey, and within a month, I was working for Pebble Beach.
Wow.
So after a year's time, I got to back up a little bit. Do you understand when somebody has agoraphobia, how huge that is?
No, I don't.
If you've got somebody who can't go 5 miles from their home, and now they move alone to Monterey, right? And that was another test.
Every mile.
Yep, that was a test. You can do this. I trust in you, Jesus. And I said that a million times. I trust in you, Jesus.
How
So,
many trips did you make back and forth?
1.
So you done it all in one shot.
Yeah. Yep.
You wouldn't taking a chance on that.
No, it's you can do this. It's all in your head. Everything, for the most part, is in your mind, right? And which president said that about fear? Kennedy? Is fear itself,
Yeah, oh, yes, yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, FDR, FDR,
yeah.
FDR. But at any rate, I moved there, and the only reason I'm back is because they raised the rent after the year's lease to just astronomical, and I realized this is not smart. I'm retired. I have a pension. What, I need to work the rest of my life to pay rent? No. So I made a conscious decision. Here's the deal. You're going to go back and you're going to finish the book.
Wow.
And I happened to find this writing for publication class in Clovis. And I joined 4 years ago. And that's where I found CJ and learned how to become a writer. It's where I found all the steps and links to how to get books published. And then God's hand was it to lead me to my publisher, Post Hill Press. And now here we go. And back in 2009 and all along the way, no way did I ever know. But I just trusted, I'll figure it out, which is what I do with everything. It doesn't matter that I don't know how to do something. I'll figure it out, right? And with the internet now,
Oh, yeah.
if you want to do something, Google it. You know, you can learn how to play the guitar, right?
Yeah.
On the internet. Everything's on the internet. So nobody has any excuse now for, if you want to know, if you want to do it, get on the internet and you'll find a way.
What was keeping you driving? What was in your mind when you got up in the morning? What made you drive? What made you get out of bed? What made you say, I need to do this?
You talking about when I moved to Monterey or just in
I'm
general?
just talking about when you got up this morning.
The wave I'm riding right now is hope and to see how the story ends, because if God wanted me to write this book and he's got a reason for it, what's exciting to me now is finding out what that reason was. So for you to contact me and tell me about this program and what your intent is, I'm like, okay, now things are starting to make sense to me, because I'm going to be an inspiration, hopefully, even if it's one person.
Absolutely.
Right?
And you've already got him. That's me. I mean, you turned me upside down by reading that book. I mean, I don't need boy string or putting up, but you did it. I mean, you went beyond. When I seen what you were writing in that book, and when I finished it, I had a different thought. And that's why I wanted you on here to tell other people they need to read that book so they can get another thought. If the thoughts they're having aren't good, go ahead on.
Well, and I'm going through it right now. You know, the family's bickering now with my sister, and I had a hard last week breakout in hives, and that's what I'm saying. It's not like people, it is unrealistic to think that it's going to be all rosy every day. It's not. It's called life.
Yes.
And I don't subscribe to everything happens for a reason. In my mind, life happens.
That's it.
And when it happens, like my sister dying, how prepared are you for those dips in the road? You need a strong foundation. And I'm 70. I've had a lot of time, right? So at 17 and over the years, you start building on it. You keep building on it. So,
Absolutely.
right? So at 70, you should have a pretty strong foundation. You know how the story ends. It's right with my kids and grandkids and talking to them about alcoholism.
Yes.
Or just drugs in general. I know how the story ends. Michael killed himself, right? I know how the story ends in a marriage and relationship. If it's not, you need the communication with, well, people in general. I
Right.
think the biggest I'm doing it right now in my family. Lack of communication, this texting and the rest of it. When I'm trying to, can we come together? Can we have a conversation on the phone? You know, I see the breakdown there. But at any rate, it's just, it always comes down to, what do you want?
Yes. And you should be an absolute expert on drunk drivers.
100%. And I joined a Facebook page called Mad for Victim Services. And it's heartbreaking
Oh, yeah.
because the drunk driver was 61 years old. He was a drunk. He was an alcoholic. He had a rap sheet a mile long. And I guess I was fortunate in that he went to jail and then went to prison within 6 months. He only got 5 years. But if you go to that Mad Victim Services Facebook page, it's heartbreaking where these guys don't even go to jail or prison, and they're putting these families years with no resolution, you know, and their solution and their hope is that these drunk drivers, whether they kill or maim, that it's swift, and they want you know, I was talking to them this morning. We want a life sentence for them because it was a life sentence for my parents.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, but I don't drink, so I don't have a lot
Praise
of,
God.
right?
But right at this moment, when you go home tonight and you go to bed and you get up in the morning, what's going to be your drive? What's going to drive you?
Right now it's the book. I want to see the outcome more than anything. My hope is to get back to Monterey, even if it's just a second home. That's driving me because I think everybody should have something to look forward to.
Amen.
Right? I'm looking forward to, I just might get my second home in Monterey somehow, some way, and that's driving me.
Yes. I love Bodega Bay. That's my place.
Yeah.
Same. It's just like Monterey. But what drives you right now is you're living and you have children
And grandchildren,
and grandchildren. Wow.
yeah, they're my life.
So, you know what, Kathy? I've talked to a lot of people in my life. I'm 81 years old and still dumber than a rock. So I'm trying to learn things. But you have blessed me. You blessed me with your book. Folks, look at this over and over again. God bless.